All right, so the main purpose of this chart, you should have this chart, the main purpose of this chart is we're going to look at the differences between DNA and RNA. Before we get into what they do, we just want to look at some of the main differences, okay? So let's start with the actual name. Let's start with the name. Anybody want to go for trying to pronounce DNA? Deoxyribo, I'm going to put a dash, nucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic
What
acid.
is acid? I really don't know what it means.
We'll get into that after this, when we get done filming. Okay? All right. RNA is ribonucleic acid. I don't know why that's ribonucleic, ribonucleic acid.
Can you say it again?
Ribonucleic acid, ribonucleic. All right, so next let's look at the location of DNA and RNA. So where is DNA going to be located?
Nucleus.
It's in the nucleus only, okay? The DNA is in the nucleus. The RNA,
It goes from the nucleus to the corpuscle. I mean the corals.
is in the nucleus, and then it goes out into the cytoplasm, out into the cell outside the nucleus. All right, so now let's look at the number of strands. How many strands does DNA have? Two. It has two. How many strands does RNA have? One. All right, next we're going to look at the type of sugar. That's another difference, the type of sugar. What's in DNA? Deoxyribose. And what's in RNA? The ribose. Ribose. It's the name of the sugar. All right, so after the sugars, let's look at the nitrogen base pairs. The nitrogen base pairs. All right, so in DNA, you're going to have adenine and thymine that go together, and you're going to have the G and the C, the guanine and the cytosine that go together. That's a G, sorry. A-T,
Oh, I thought it was a Q.
G and C, that's a G. Whereas in RNA, you're going to have A and U that go together, and G and C go together. We got that? All right. So now I'm going to move this up some. There we go. All right. So now let's look at the actual names of the bases. Nitrogen bases. So we've got that's ADE. Let's see if I can get it to do right. Adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. And I'm going to put a star right here beside thymine. Why am I putting a star there beside thymine?
Because it's only in DNA.
That one's only in DNA. In RNA, you're going to have something different. Adenine, and you're going to replace thymine with uracil. So I'm going to put another star beside that just so I can key myself into, hey, that's different. That's what's different. And then the other two are the same, guanine and cytosine. You may have to look in your notes to see these written a little bit neater. It's hard to fit it all in that box on the smart board. And let's look at the types of DNA. There's one type. You have just plain DNA and that's it. There's no other versions of DNA. But with RNA, you've got 3 different types. Let me draw a line here. You've got mRNA. What did the M stand for? Messenger, because it's carrying a message. You got tRNA, which transfers things, transfer RNA, and you got rRNA, which is ribosomal RNA, which makes up the ribosomes, which assemble the proteins.
What's the third one?
That's an R. I'm sorry, rRNA. mRNA, tRNA, and rRNA, ribosomal. So I want you to make sure that you keep this paper to study. I'm gonna come around and check, make sure all of you did it, and then if you're virtual, make sure that you submit it on Schoology. Okay?